latitude 0, longitude 0. Speaking from the center of the world, Ghana. This is where we are. This is the center of Pan-Africanism. Moving black people forward, uniting us on the same platform, telling the stories that concerns us. Boom! Zo TV Talking Points. Do not change the dial. Stay tuned.
So you had this image of a gypsy woman on...
A gypsy woman?
A gypsy woman on this wax cloth.
Yes.
And the image of this gypsy woman was taken around and deposited in various ports throughout what's now known as West Africa. Okay. Now the name Mamy is not English, it's coming from the Mamy in English. Sorry, it's not any indigenous language, it's coming from the Mamy in English. And then Wata, of course, is not any indigenous language.
Yeah.
But the reason why you find this, English name is because it's coming from that side, that they would deposit these images of this gypsy woman, sometimes with...
So when you say the deposit images,
so you have wax cloth, just like you have the wax cloth on. You have certain wax cloths that become very popular, like Anomantia Obadele, like Achichidia Echi. Like there are certain wax cloths that everyone knows because they're ubiquitous. Yeah. And at this time, the wax cloths were almost like a currency, where you can go from one port to another, and you can exchange cloth in order to get whatever other types of goods that you want. Exactly. So this was the gypsy woman that got this name of Mamy Wata. So when you go to Nigeria, you'll find Mamy Wata. And again, it's coming from this image. When you go to shrines, as a matter of fact, there's a shrine near Adoso on the way, going there, where they have this image of a white woman who's like a mermaid. And usually you'll see an image of a white woman who's a mermaid. And again, it's coming from, they used to, in Western Eurasia, what they call so-called Europe, which again is just a peninsula of the continent of Eurasia. They had this woman who, was known to, they had these freak shows and these side shows and other things that would travel. And there was one woman who was very, well known as this traveling gypsy woman. Okay. And that was the image that was used in order to make these cloths. And then that became known as Mamy Wata. So that woman actually did exist. Okay. But now the idea of taking the image of a woman and deifying this white woman is something that is a contrived notion. But again, it comes from once you're able to colonize the people, now you can colonize the spiritual realm. So once you can get people to think that this white woman, this gypsy woman is a deity, now they will start behaving as though a white woman.
Because anywhere you see a signboard, of Mamy Water or anything to do with Mamy Water, the signboard always has a lot of very light-skinned images on a light-skinned woman. And, I don't understand the idea that it's only light-skinned people that are under the ocean or what. Did you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So this Mamy Water concept is a concept of an image being dropped at different ports and now being deified by our people. So
and again, prior to the coming of that image of Mamy Water, you had feminine water divinities, such as Yemoja, which is associated with the Ogun River, such as Oshun, which is associated with, of course, the Oshun River. You have all of these feminine deities, even Olokun was seen as being feminine. So you have all of these, associations of women with water and water spirits. So it's very easy for them to colonize the spiritual realm through that avenue of saying, okay, well, this white woman is also, a deity. So again, if you can colonize the people's concept of the spiritual realm, this now has implications that we're still living with today. All the signboards that you've seen, that I've seen, is coming from that.
So really, Mamy Water doesn't exist.
The white woman did exist.
Yes.
There's a historical white woman.
But that deity now, in Ghana here, where somebody said he's going to a shrine, is Mamy Water shrine.
I would say the degree to which people give energy to it is the degree to which it exists. So the example that I gave before, that I think people maybe ought to relate to is Microsoft. It's like, well, where does is there a person called Microsoft? Everyone would say, well, Microsoft exists. Well, okay, well, where is it? Touch the person called Microsoft. Is it Bill Gates? No, that's not Microsoft. That's just a guy, and he stepped down as CEO. So it's like, here's something that's intangible, but because of all of us putting our time, our energy, our resources, our spirit, our money into it, now here's something that, if you say Microsoft doesn't exist, I say, what do you mean Microsoft doesn't exist? I have Windows on my laptop right there. Of course Microsoft exists. So it's really just answering that question of the degree to which we give energy to something is the degree to which we all act as though the thing exists and, it's able to manifest in various ways through our lives.
I think I'm coming back to my question of how many years have you been in this?
Yeah, so I'm 44 years old, right? But I would say, so even though I was born into a family, there's a certain point in your life where you have to make choices on your own.
Yeah.
So it's not just, oh, well, my parents wanted me to do this, so I'm doing this. So around 98, 99, so I was around, let's say 19 or 20 years old, that's when I got very serious. That's the time where I decided that every day of my life I'm wearing clothes made by black people exclusively.
Okay.
That's the time where I decided that I'm going to get serious about learning the Tree language. Okay. Now I grew up without Tree, so this is why, you know, I find it funny when Ghanaians say, oh, well, I don't know Tree well because my parents didn't teach me. I didn't even know that anything called Tree existed till I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that there was anything in the entire planet called Tree.
Yes.
So if your parents didn't teach you the word for this, you could have learned it, because if I can learn it, by all means you can learn it, but, you know, we come back to it. Okay. So again, that's why I started to get very serious about the language, about the clothes, about the spiritual system, what we're calling the spiritual system. But again, this is why I'm saying that our concept of the quote-unquote spiritual realm itself has been colonized.
Yes.
Because as soon as we say that something is spiritual, now it means that there's something else that's secular.
Yeah.
There's something else that's mundane, that's not spiritual.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you have the concept of you're supposed to have your Nkrabia, you're supposed to live your life in an ethical, moral way. It means that every single thing that you do in your life is spiritual in that regard. But because we've been colonized to think that, okay, well, here's the spiritual realm and here's the mundane realm. Now, like I have students who want to learn Yoruba, but they only want to learn Orisha songs.
Okay.
Because that's spiritual.
Okay.
That means the lullaby isn't spiritual.
Yes.
That means the recipe for how to make moi moi isn't spiritual.
That
means everything else Yoruba people are doing that's secular and mundane.
Yeah.
I just want the spiritual stuff. It's because their concept is there are certain things that are spiritual and then there are these other things that are mundane. It means they've missed the entire point. It means they are basically still Christians, just with kente cloth on top of it.
On top of it, yeah. So the age 19, 20, you were in Ghana?
Yeah, I came to Ghana.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 98 I came for 2 weeks. In 99 I again came for 2 weeks, and that's on the Sankofa journey. For those who are interested, you can go to sankofajourney.com, SANKOFAJOURNEY.com, and that was the life transforming experience for me, is coming on the Sankofa journey that my mother coordinated. Now I coordinated along with her, where people learn the language. We travel around Ghana. We go to different shrines. We go to the dungeons. We go to traditional rulers. All of these experiences, and people rave about it. Now people, and the reason why I gave the site is because people are now trying to use the name Sankofa Journey, but it's not the real Sankofa Journey. And last year someone said, oh, I want to come on the Sankofa Journey. They paid their money before they realized that they were on the wrong thing. That was done by a church or something that just hijacked the name.
Folks, man, okay. When you are watching this channel here, make sure that when you want to go on this Sankofa Journey, you either contact me or you contact Professor Kambon. And make sure that you don't put your money somewhere else and then you get being scammed, okay? So listen very well and don't make that mistake and come back here and say, oh no, we found the guy, blah, 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 blah. No, we don't want all that. Anyway, have you been to Acom? Who is Acom for?
So my mother is in Acom for.
Yes.
I think I mentioned that before.
Yes, but who is Acom for?
Right, so you have to go into the root verb, com. So that is the root of both Acom and also Acom. So when you say accommodate, most people understand that as hunger takes me. Like you'll say, I'm hungry, but what you're saying is accommodate. So com is where there's a void here. It's empty, right? So when you say com, it means that there's this void, this emptiness here that needs to be filled. That's the same thing for Acom. It means that you've been trained over the course of years, usually 7 years at least, sometimes 12 years or more, that you've gone through this training process where you can let an aspect of yourself go to the side and you're able to allow another spiritual force to come into your body. So your body is now used as a vessel. So the same way that your belly is a vessel, here it's empty, now it's being filled by something, you're able to allow a part of yourself to go out of your body to allow another entity to take that body now again as a vessel. So that's what Acom is itself. So when you say that you're going to Acom, you know that there's going to be possession, because that's the main aspect of what Acom is all about. Now you have people who aren't trained to do that, and if a part of you goes away, especially like your kra, so there's this idea of, in Chi they say, okra pa to say okra, echirifi, which is to say, a good kra, that's the aspect of you that comes from Onyame, is like a cat. Ochirifi, which is to say it despises filth.
Okay.
If you see cats, they're always licking themselves, they're always trying to stay clean, and that's the same way that the kra is seen, is that your own kra despises filth, it doesn't want to get filthy. But if you're not fulfilling your destiny, if you're not living in accordance with what your nkrabia is, your kra can get sick of you. Now, there are different things you could do. Let's say you are smoking and drinking and destroying your body and just, getting venereal diseases, all types of things, your kra will leave you. And in that case, you'll say, ne kra adjane. That person's kra has run away from them.
Okay.
And in that, you're basically like a living dead person. Okay. It's only a matter of time before you go to Asamando. Yeah. You understand? But you don't become an ancestor in the sense of those who we pour libation to. You become one of those sasa, who dies a bad death, all of these types of things that go along with that. Okay. So, that's basically the idea of, when you have your kra, you're supposed to be living in accordance with your nkrabia. And this is why those who are Acom, those who are trained to let a part of them go out, and then this goes in, it's a certain amount of time, that part goes back, and then the part of them returns to them. Those who don't have that training, a part of you goes away, and it's not in a structured system. You don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to deal with different aspects, because again, there's a concept that the human is composed of multiple selves. So if we look at the Akan language, the Okra is one part of yourself. The Sunsum is another part of yourself. The Honhom is another part of yourself. The Moja is another part of yourself. The Re, so when you say Aurechichi, Aureshim, the Re is another part of yourself. So I can go on and on, but all of these are different parts of yourselves. Yeah. The Tibwa, which you would say as conscience, is another part of yourself. So all of these are different parts of yourself, but it comes down to, well, why are all of these different parts together? They are together so you can fulfill your nkrabia. And so usually...
you are Kongfu?
No, I'm not a Kongfu. I'm Ohene.
You're Ohene?
Yeah, but I'm Ohene Chidom Hene.
Did you ever train?
No, my mother trained.
No. Your mother trained?
Yes.
Okay. But
so you have different roles. So before I became installed, I was her Ochiame. And that's even how I got into the language, because I was like, how can I be a good Ochiame if I don't learn Chi? So it means I have to get very, very serious.
Who gave you the title Ochiame?
My mother.
Okay.
So each Okomfo has an Ochiame.
Okay.
Right, so I became her Ochiame.
All right.
So I did all of the work associated with being her Ochiame.
How would you say Ochiame in English language for people who don't understand Ochiame? Who is Ochiame?
So the most accurate translation is spokesperson, the person who speaks on behalf of this other person. In Ghana, people say linguist, but that's not a good translation, because a linguist is someone who studies linguistics, which is the grammar of the language, the phonology, the phonetics, all of these aspects. So I'm like, this person is not a linguist because they don't study phonology, phonetics, and morphology and so forth.
So all this while we've been using linguists, and
it's not right. So if it's a linguist, it's someone, you can go to the Department of Linguistics. They'll give you a definition of what a linguist is. Is it historical linguistics? Is it, so forth? But that's not it. So, so the most accurate one is a spokesperson. Right? If you want to really speak English well.
Okay. All right. So you were Chami, and then
so I was, so then I was installed as Bamuhene Chidomhene Edekwape Mampon. And then also, as you know, the different roles I'm an Obinfo at University of Ghana, founder of Abibitumi. I'm the husband, I am, the son, I'm the father. So different roles with regard to different people.
So what is the roadmap for Africans now with this African spirituality, where a lot of things seems like, everything is so fragmented, everything is so broken?
Yeah.
What's the solution?
So the roadmap has never changed in terms of you're supposed to be fulfilling your destiny, and you're also supposed to live a good ethical life. You're supposed to have good character so that you can become an ancestor. And when we pour libation, we call out your name because you are one of the ancestors. That's the only roadmap that there's ever been. That's the only roadmap that there will ever be. The question is, do we go along the path of our ancestors, or do we veer away from the path of our ancestors? If we think our life purpose is to praise an imaginary white boy on a stick, then we've gone away from the path, right? Now, again, white people will reward you from going away from that path. They'll give you cars and call you a bishop this and, that. They will literally pay you to betray your ancestors. You understand? And that's often the way that they were able to get a foothold, is that they will say, okay, the ill-gotten gains that we got from enslaving these people, from raping them, from murdering them, from lynching them. I'll give you some of them, and I'll call you a pastor at, Akropong. So literally the ill-gotten gains of murder, of lying, of cheating, of stealing, of deceit, they take that money in order to make you a pastor, and now you're seen as, this, so forth and so on. But literally you're getting the second-hand goods of a murderer. Imagine an armed robber who comes to you, that all night he's been out killing people and, robbing them, shooting them in the head. But when he comes back home, he says, here is 2,000 Ghana cedis. Shh, just be quiet. That's the hush money that we have. And we still have pastors who are doing the exact same thing. They're taking the ill-gotten gains of the Catholic Church, the Roman Church, right? We know the role of Italy throughout history. We know the role of the British, throughout history.
British.
The British.
Is that the British?
Yes. Some people call them the British. I'll call them the British because they're very brute-like, folks.
Yeah.
We know their role in enslaving black people. We know all of the atrocities of the French. We know the atrocities of the Portuguese, of the Spanish. But literally, all of that ill-gotten gains is what they've used in order to funnel to, these black people who are now serving the interests.
Now that you are in the education mainstream, like, working at the University of Ghana and all that, don't you think that it will be good for certain part of this spirituality thing to be embedded in our educational curriculum, where right from childhood, you start to value it, you start to learn it. I mean, the reason why I said this, it could be easier coming from your angle because you are already in that circle, or you've not really. I think maybe you've done something. Have you done anything about it before? Have you thought about it? How we can put this into the education system?
So, as you know, I'm a professor of African Studies. Anytime I would do a presentation, I would pour libation at the beginning of my presentation. And you would have these sellout coon house Negroes who complain about the libation.
How do you call them?
Sellout coon house Negroes. Bootlicking, buck dancing, shucking and driving, scratching where it don't in house Negroes who will kick against it. I remember, they'll kick against it.
Yeah.
I remember I had a colleague. I won't mention the colleague's name, but I poured libation at the beginning of my presentation. This is an academic scholarly presentation, but that's what we do in the U.S.
Yeah.
That before we'll give an academic scholarly presentation, we're pouring libation to the ancestors. So I think if I'm coming to the land of black people, then this would just be normal.
Yeah.
But they've never seen anything like that. So my colleague said, please don't pour libation because the good thing about this place is that it's secular and we don't do, so forth. We don't want the Christians or Muslims coming. Now, 1 week to the exact day, so that was on a Thursday. We had the Thursday seminars at African Studies. The very next week, they had the opening of the Irene K. Odote Senior Common Room at African Studies. And guess what they did? They had a pastor come into christen the room. He did prayers, and then they sang Christian hymns all throughout the morning for praying for this opening of the room. And all the students came to me and said, do you think she'll say something about Do you think she'll say something about all of the Christian content? She said absolutely nothing. But this is what we are dealing with. And this is a difference. So like for me, I didn't grow up in Ghana.
Yeah.
And as a child, throughout my teens and my 20s, I always saw it as, if I'm trying to get into quote-unquote re-Africanization, that's something that kind of like hinders me because I didn't grow up. I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even know that there was a tree until I'm 17 and 18 years old.
Yeah.
But then, there is a Papa no Boni Frimuba. Boni na Papa Frimuba, that good can come from bad and bad can come from good. You have this, duality as it stands. So, in one sense, it was a hindrance that I wasn't born in Ghana, but in another sense, it was beneficial in that I never was an adherence to praying to imaginary white born estate. I was never a churchgoer. I never prayed to Obruni Yesu, Obruni Chinchinga. I was never into Isfet Islam. So Isfet is the word for chaos in classical Kemet. So what they call Islam, I call it Isfet Islam.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I was never into that. And that's the difference because any Ghanaian I've met, even those who want to be conscious now, the fact that they've been into Christian sanity it means that they're hindered in terms of their thinking.
Yeah.
They're hindered in terms of how they're going to interact and relate with the world, and even in terms of how they're going to relate to me, because the way I talk, the way that I move, the way that I do is going to be at odds with how they act, because I've never prayed to a white man.
So to penetrate this education system with, with analogy you've given now, it's not an easy.
You will go up against, you will have a fight, with those who have been colonized and who've been spending 50, 60, 70 years praying to imaginary white people. Now, for me, I don't even pray to real white people. How much less will I pray to imaginary white people? That means I'm not praying to imaginary Yesu. I'm not praying to imaginary Moses. I'm not praying to any imaginary white people, because I won't even pray to real white people. So, this is, essentially what we're dealing with.
Boom! 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 Anyway, I will not let you just go without not asking this beautiful walking stick that you have in your hand, because it tells a story on its own. Yeah, does it have any significance?
Yeah. So the proverb is Urefi no Sankofa yenchi.
Urefi
no
Sankofa yenchi.
And literally, if you forget and you go back and take it, we don't taboo that.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. It's not abhorred. So to chi is like, to put your back towards something is to taboo it, to abhor. Yeah. So when you say mi chi bibi, it's like saying you put your back towards the thing. So that's the proverb. So again, we talked about the Sankofa journey, and again, I encourage all of your listeners to go to sankofajourney.com. Don't go to any other site. We don't do Facebook. We're not on TikTok, on any of these white platforms. We have our own platform, sankofajourney.com. If you're on anything else, then it's a fraud thing that's trying to pretend to be us, but it's not us. If you don't see my face, my mother's face, and the face of all the beautiful black people who've been coming since 1998 on it, then it's not the real Sankofa journey. So this is the Sankofa, and this is what it's essentially about. When you look at the Abibitumi logo, it has the Dikenga, and then it also has the Sankofa inside of it, which is again encouraging us to go back and fetch that which is useful for us to move forward into the future. So this is the bird, which is going back to fetch that which is useful as it's moving forward into the future. So that's what it's all about. And again, I mentioned the Abibitumi conference. You can go to conference.abibitumi.com. It's coming up September 6th through the 8th. You can be a vendor. You can be a presenter. We have musical artists. We had Pura Khan, who headlined last year. We had Black Rasta, who came. We had Zozo. All of our celebrities in the house. We had all of them, come through. We had the Honorable Nikwesi Kwatu, the former deputy chair to the AU, Omanhin of Esikado, Nanan Ketsia the fifth. Just so many of our luminaries. If I start listing people, someone will say, you didn't mention me, so let me stop now. I'll just say that we have so many luminaries. We can't mention all the words. There's so many people. So we're inviting you to come to the Abibitumi conference on Black Power. It's really about this primary outcome variable. We can have our spiritual systems, we can have our food, our clothes, we can have all of those, but if we don't have power to prevent our enemies from doing whatever they want, then they'll continue to do whatever they want to our detriment. So that's what the conference is all about. We have a documentary honoring my father. You can go to abibitumi.com/quiet warrior. His name, Kamau, is Kikuyu for quiet warrior. So that's the documentary, abibitumi.com. Quiet Warrior. We're bringing people on as producers. They can contribute in various ways. So we have a lot going on. So stay close. And before you click off the video, download the Abibitumi app. Go to Play Store, App Store, download Abibitumi. And this is how we interact outside of the digital plantations of Mark Zuckerberg or any other white people who will put you off of it and put you in Facebook jail if you say something that's too black. We don't depend on those white people. We have our own platforms. And I encourage you to get off of all of the cracker platforms and join the black platforms. Now, I quit YouTube. That was 2018. I had something like 12,000 subscribers at the time that I quit. And people were putting in comments and say, Okunini, he stopped posting to YouTube. I don't understand. And that told me that I was wasting my time, because if I'm not using a white platform, that means the hundreds of videos I put up there, you didn't understand a single word, because all of those videos are telling you quit white platforms and create our own platforms. But if you don't understand it, it means that all I'm saying is just entertainment, just to get money or whatever. So we're away from that, and now we're building our black platforms. So Zoe is the modern day Harriet Tubman. Why do I say that?
Modern day what?
Harriet Tubman.
Okay.
So this was one of our ancestors who had the Underground Railroad. She would take people off the plantation and bring them up following the drinking gourd, the star up to freedom. Okay. So you're doing a similar thing. Yeah. You're leading people off of YouTube onto black platforms. Yeah. So I applaud you for that. I'd encourage you to also leave the plantation, because Harriet Tubman didn't chill out on the plantation. She gathered them up and she led them away to freedom. And that's what we have to do also on the digital realm as well. So I'll be betumi, I'll be Fahudi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. Last one on your necklace, because the necklace too has a lot of story over there. So, give me something small about the necklace.
Yeah, these are the bones of the enemies who I've defeated over the years. So anytime
the bones of the enemies.
Yeah. So anytime I defeat someone, I always take one of their bones. No, I'm joking.
Boom! We're done.
We're going face.
Yes, we're done. You know what? It's actually true, but watch the next episode. Okay, we're gonna talk about the bones of the enemies. Okay. Yeah, man. Zo TV Talking Points. Do not change the dial. Stay tuned.